I am lucky enough to have gotten a troubled green to follow me down an interesting path that I don't think is being talked about enough, and it is related, of course, to The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. How are you doing today, Alasia?
I am good. I am good. I'm ready to talk more Lord of the Rings.
There is a Twitter group, and it's also a website called the Fellowship of the Fans. Now, they made an announcement, and do you remember what it was that they said that raised a lot of eyebrows?
They were essentially in partnership now with Amazon, that they were officially partnered with them to release content about the Rings of Power, which is deeply troubling for so many reasons.
I did a tweet at them as soon as I saw that, and I said, does this mean you're going to become the next OneRing.net? And their response to me seemed wholehearted, but like anything else, don't tell me, show me. So here we are 24 hours later, and we got this article. Where do you think they're going to go with this?
On the scale of things we've had issues with, one of the things has been lower down on the list of things has been that aesthetically, there's nothing about this show reminds us of what Jackson, and even if you go further back, what Alan Lee and John Howe have laid out Tolkien's world to look like. They are getting ahead of that issue, and they're saying, look, it won't be aesthetically the same of what we're used to, so let's just let that go. And because they've been polite, Amazon, I think, is probably, hoping that they will start buttering people up.
In the very first sentence, in the very first article that the Fellowship of the Fans put out, after saying they're going to become, air quotes, the source of information from Amazon, and I quote, one of the biggest problems related to the acceptance of the Amazon project by the world fandom lies in the appearance that Middle-earth will have in the show. This sounds like somebody wrote this at Amazon and gave it to them to publish.
Yeah. What will happen is, like, they'll write bullet points and they'll say, put this in your own language, but don't change the meaning.
Yeah.
So yeah, it sounds like to me, they got bullet points of like, here are your talking points, put this in how you would word it, but keep the meaning the same.
Yeah. And here's 100 coffee cups or tote bags, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
So the next sentence, I mean, again, this just reads like a press release. I mean, to me, I already have formed an opinion about the Fellowship of the Fans. I am not going to speak it publicly. I am going to wait for more information. Maybe they have our best interests at heart. Their response to me on Twitter seemed to be that of some people that would. And so the next sentence is, the teaser trailer of The Lord of the Rings and the photos in Vanity Fair have left many in a sense of bewilderment. I didn't feel bewilderment. Did you, Elijah?
No,
okay.
None whatsoever. I felt disgust.
Yeah. And I go on to the sentence, due to some aesthetic elements that have deviated from the Peter Jackson films, such as the presence of short-haired elves and primitive-styled hobbits. So it's just the way that they look.
Nothing else. That's
nothing
it.
else. Would you call this creating a straw man, or would you call this maybe formulating an argument that they already have a conclusion to, that we don't get to participate in this conversation?
Oh, the latter for sure.
Yeah.
They're putting up barricades to stop the avalanche before it really gets going. I think that they were so taken aback by the initial backlash that now, the OneRing.net has gone out of their way to alienate everybody. The Fellowship of Fans has a much bigger following, and they're nicer to people. Now they're being polite about, it's okay, just accept the changes.
Yeah.
Things all right.
Yeah.
They've changed their strategy.
Yeah, the metaphor to me is, instead of running us over with a truck, they're going to smother us with a feather pillow. The outcome is still the same, in my opinion. And I would love, if this bothers you with Fellowship of the Fans, I am not a sensationalist. I don't rage farm. My concerns are legitimate, and I wanted to bring someone in. I mean, Alasia, I really have a lot of respect for your Tolkien scholarship, and I mean that in the truest sense of the word. That's why I wanted to have you along with me on this video. We're looking at this aesthetic elements. These are more than aesthetic elements, and it's based within the writings and the books and the world. And yes, the Second Age was a different place, but to sit here and pretend primitive styled hobbits, proto-hobbits did exist, but I mean, they're just going to try and turn off the argument or just deflect the argument that hobbits belong in the Second Age at all. And if we go back to this same Vanity Fair article, showrunners Payne and McKay said, we know that hobbits don't belong in the Second Age, but can you, and these are their words, but can you imagine a Tolkien show without them? And I can, because that's how Tolkien wrote it.
Yeah. What that shows is that it's about the profit that this will turn. It's not about respecting source material, because plenty happens in the Second Age that you do not need a hobbit to tell.
And they're paraphrasing what I just said, which is Patrick McKay and J.D. Payne have already amply answered this question in the interview with Vanity Fair. I don't think that at all. I don't think they've answered anything except what they think of us when the backlash occurred from those of us who love Tolkien and have done more than just watch the Peter Jackson movies. And that's what I find insulting about this rebuttal from the Fellowship of the Fans. They're playing dumb in certain situations. Payne and McKay declaring their intention to get very close to Jackson's works, but at the same time deviate from them. The presence of the Weta workshop within the Amazon project clearly, Alasia indicates that the desire to give visual continuity to Jackson's Arda, and the one we found this element in some scenes of the teaser. This is not a well-written article, and I sound like an idiot just reading it.
Well, kind of, but also, okay, here's the thing. You can't get very close and also deviate. Those are opposites.
It's like being a little pregnant or only cheating a little bit.
Exactly.
It's still cheating. It's still being pregnant, not to make everything.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, you know, this goes back to my scholarly training. It's what, for me, when I'm researching, say, what a politician was doing in the 60s for housing development, you look for what they don't say. You look for what is not there. That's what marks you as a good scholar. Weta has barely shared anything on any of their social media. They have been very quiet and very mum about all of this. They've been bragging about Dune to no end, but they have said, I bet you, 2 words about this show. I think that is very telling.
I absolutely agree with that. And this sentence is poorly written, so I actually can read English, but it's just the point that they're making doesn't make any sense, which is that they included a linden ceremony and a view of one of the ports of Numenor, obviously what starts off the teaser trailer. What else is interesting here? As anticipated by the showrunners, there will be, air quotes, a new feeling compared to what we saw in The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. Those, of course, again, by Peter Jackson. And the reason for that is, Alasia, it's quite simple. The Second Age is a far cry from the Third, not only from a historical point of view, but also an aesthetic and cultural one. Now, I agree with that.
Yeah, same here.
But...
well... okay, so the Second Age is quite different. After the fall of Morgoth, Middle-earth did really kind of become a dark place. Men kind of regressed into a more tribalistic manner. A lot of the men who went to Numenor, the Numenorians, they were the height of men of that civilization. The elves kind of kept to themselves. So yes, the Second Age was a far cry from the Third, but for me, the way I look at the way Tolkien wrote it, it was a healing time for Middle-earth. Middle-earth kind of had to go dark in order for it to recuperate to go into the Third Age, if that makes any sense at all. And there was a flourishing of Numenor. So yeah, Middle-earth is different, but sorry, it's not like the elves were just learning how to create bows. I mean, they were at some of the height of their civilization.
It's referenced even within the Lord of the Rings films about the the days of old and the High Kings and all of the glory that was. It's a subjective thing to look at the teaser trailer. It failed to meet my expectations as to what the Second Age was, in this true height of anything. Then, of course, we have Gladriel in armor, and that horse has been beat how many times? It's almost like they're conveniently omitting data that doesn't prove their thesis, and they think we're just going to buy it.
Okay, so far as the trailer is concerned, and EV Magazine did a wonderful article on this about the clothing that they saw in the trailer. It's too clean. I'm sorry, Elrond's beautiful garb. Even if you look at like the very edges of his robes, they're ever so slightly frayed. It's still beautiful, and you can tell that he's a Noldorian elf, but it's not so pristine that it looks like you just got it out of Party City. The cloaks that I saw in the teaser trailer look exactly like that. And like that brief instance we got of Gil-galad, his armor looks too perfect. I don't know what it is, but it's not right.
What it seems to me, this article was only wrote to legitimize what Amazon has done after the fact. They're crafting a narrative, and they're taking concepts and some of the truth, obviously, that lies in the source material, in the Silmarillion, other texts, but they're doing it in such a way so that it will match what we get from the Rings of Power. The only party I see benefiting in this is Amazon.
Yeah.
I don't see the fans being, my fears are actually increased reading this more than anything else. Now they're getting into details. The wonder of the Elven realms will be a decidedly more impactful aspect than the cinematic trilogies. Even the presence of places and characters that we could never have admired in the Third Age. Lindon and Ost in Edhill are only very distant memories to the reign of Elisar, while in the Second Age they are represented in essence of this is a terrible written article. They are represented in essence of great beauty, power, and magic. Okay, from their perspective. Okay, so here we go. It is also not entirely true that elves all had long hair.
Yeah, sorry. I read the first chapter of the Unfinished Tales, and some mortal man stumbles across an elf on a beach. He goes into pretty descriptive detail of just how beautiful this elf is, that his face looks sculpted, he has stormy gray eyes, and that his hair flowed down his back. No, sorry, there are enough instances within the books of him talking about their long hair. There's enough indication that I am comfortable saying, no, I'm pretty sure he envisioned all of the elves to have at least shoulder length hair, if not, clear down to their elbows like Elrond did.
And here we go again. This song is very familiar in this article.
Yeah.
They, in quote, this stylistic choice was brought exclusively by Peter Jackson to his films, but several images by the greatest Tolkienian illustrators show many elves with short hair. I would have loved to see an image here. Because when I look at Alan Lee and the John Howe images, and I have several of their illustration books, I don't see any shaved-headed or buzz cut elves.
No,
I don't.
I've seen Fëanor and all of his sons depicted with shoulder length hair, not a buzz cut.
So, I mean, again, Fellowship of the Fans, if you guys watch this, I would love to have you come on the show. It will be a very fair experience. There will be no gotchas. There will be no setups. To me, this article that you have put out, this just seems like you're being Amazon apologists. And I can't take any of these points seriously, because just because you say it's true doesn't mean it is. If you would present some images and numerous sources that list off where in Tolkien that is said, and then where are all these images by all of these great Tolkienian illustrators of elves. And don't think after I record this I'm not going to go look for them. Apparently they say Tolkien never says that the Eldar had long hair, and that we need to stop with this annoying myth. This is their language.
Okay, here's the thing, and here's what is sad about reading even that sentence. When the Fellowship of the Fans came out and wrote that beautiful article about where the name Theo came from, the level of respect that they were doing Tolkien in that article is such a far cry even from this. This is startling, because they were like, no, Theo, that's not okay. There is no Greek in Tolkien's etymology of names. And now all of a sudden saying that all the Eldar have long hair is an annoying myth. Are you kidding? Sorry, that's kind of sad.
This sounds like they were on a conference call with people from Amazon being fed what to say. Now, if that's not true, and everything that I state within this video is my opinion, everything that Alasia says is her opinion.
Yes.
So what we are doing here is we are making transformative content motivated by love of Tolkien, love of the books, love of this world, and also, of course, great love and respect for Peter Jackson. So I am really not seeing any sort of reverence toward Peter Jackson at all. It's more of like, well, just because Jackson did it, you need to leave that in the past. That was just Jackson's choice. This is really weird. This is a really weird article. So, okay, here we go. The controversial theme of hobbits will be debated for a long time, but we are focusing on the aesthetic sector. and that the Harfoots were decidedly more primitive in appearance and in customs is absolutely consistent. The halflings appeared in the films. Okay, you need an editor, Fellowship of the Fans. If you're going to put out something like this, you can't, it's just so the halflings, and I'm going to correct your sentences. The halflings that appeared in the films represent, quote, the final phase of the evolution of the species, and everything coincides perfectly with the descriptions given in the writings. Okay, I have a big problem with this because, again, we're not supposed to have hobbits. There were proto-hobbits, but they were not a multicultural band.
You can make this fan fiction, or you can respect what the professor wrote. If it's not in any of the books that we have from Tolkien that Christopher compiled for us, sorry, in my mind, they're not there. You could definitely show a band of men, of mortal men who have characteristics similar to hobbits, but to just full on put hobbits, I don't care if they're Harfoots or not, in the Second Age, to me is incredibly disrespectful.
And even the showrunners admitted,
yeah,
in the Vanity Fair article, that they don't belong there. But they could not imagine making Tolkien's work without inserting their own post-it note level ideas of what it is. Again, according to this article, another very important factor lies in the exploration of places and lands never seen in Jackson's films. I'm good with that. An element that could stun general fans who don't know the writings. In fact, in the show, here we go, we will have stories from the Harad, Haruan lands inspired by the Middle East and North Africa. I see the Harad as being inspired by Middle Eastern cultures.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Got no problem with that at all. And which obviously feature characters with a dark, oh, here we go, which obviously feature characters with a darker complexion than other races on Middle Earth. We know where they're going with this. There's no way that we could put a comment in here that wouldn't be used against us. So we're just, we're going to let you, the viewer, form your own opinions and just say, to me, in my opinion, they are dumping what Amazon told them to write. And we all remember the we guessed they were hobbits carrying around the big old moose antlers. Well, they are the Losas, and you ready for this? They are the Eskimos of Arda, of Tolkien's world, and represent another people never shown in the films of the past. Do you know what the hell they're talking about? Because I've never seen anything about the Eskimos of Arda anywhere. In any book or even just trying to find information on them in general, I didn't see anything about Eskimos.
No, and I just finished the Silmarillion. No one from a cold climate like this was ever mentioned. Reading the Unfinished Tales now, no Eskimos. Again, even if he was thinking in the back of his mind, it's not in the books. Sorry, in my mind, it doesn't exist in Arda. Eskimos do not belong in Middle Earth.
I thought we couldn't say Eskimo anymore. It had to be indigenous people or First Nations or something actually, like that.
Yeah, or Inuit. Yeah, I thought Eskimos was not now a phrase that should be used.
Fellowship of the Fans, get an editor. If you're going to drop statements like this, you need to add a couple more sentences to them. It can't look like you were literally given bullet points from Amazon and cut and pasted them into an article like this, because that's every passing sentence, guys. If that's not what it is, then you really need to rethink perception here, because I am completely sold that this is nothing but what you were fed from Amazon. If I'm wrong, I would love to talk with you about it fairly. If not me, then other people. But I would like to be there for this because I was on your side. I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt, or I'm not labeling you, but I'm saying what I'm seeing here is an about face from what you've been giving us. And all of this has changed since you said you were going to be the vehicle, the information partner from Amazon. Well, this looks really bad, in my opinion.
This is a huge information dump with really not a whole lot of justification. It's just like, here's a sentence, now take our word for it. If they know Tolkien as well as I know they do, then why are you not backing this up with phrases from the book, with citations? I mean, the 13 histories of the Lord of the Rings are footnoted to hell and back by Christopher. Give us footnotes. Give us something that eases our mind. What this is doing is giving us more anxiety.
I mean, what it's doing to me is all kinds of alarm bells are going off, because this is corporate speak, and it is said dispassionately. And every one of these sentences, in my opinion, is a response to a criticism. I don't see anything here that says you're going to love what you see and we're going to give you a little taste of it. This is why you're wrong for not liking what we're doing. And that's the problem here. I don't see any celebrations of just wait until you see this. You know, it's going to be absolutely amazing. No, it's basically like, shut up, stop complaining, or we did it. And these are the reasons why. And that has to be good enough. I don't accept that at all.
They're smart guys, and they know what they're talking about.
The last sentence in this, because we're not gonna flog this. I will talk about this on some live streams though. Tolkien's world is not only made up of elves. Whoa, no, really? Wow. Thanks guys. Men of the West in Rohirrim. And it is necessary to understand that there are other peoples. Oh, see, they're telling us so much. And it is necessary to understand that there are other peoples that the transpositions have never explored. And the hope is that they can be admired in their full coherence. Oh my God. What we're going to get that's why we haven't seen anything. They just told us why.
Yeah, they did.
Basically what it is we're going to focus on all of the other diversity and representation that needs to be brought forward from Tolkien's works. That's how I'm reading this sentence.
What I infer from this is that the men of the West and the elves are not going to be the good defenders of Middle Earth that we know them to be.
Exactly. They are going to be the colonizers. I mean, all the buzzwords. That's where I think we're going here. I mean, again, Fellowship of the Fans, I have no ill will toward you. I am making this video and I hope you watch it and understand that my heart is in the right place. I am deeply troubled by this. I don't rage farm on this channel. What I do is if I bring things up and I try and say, this is why I'm concerned. And that's why I brought Elijah, who's Tolkien scholarship I respect greatly, and you know, I am a fan. I have read the books, but I am not way down into the lore like you or other channels are. So boy, if Amazon thought this statement was going to assuage any fears, it did the absolute opposite.
Again, we don't have anything against you at all. You're nerds like us, you're geeks, you're fans. And to be a fan is to share what you love with someone else. But we have seen that when you partner with a corporate entity, very often that sends you down a very dark path. And while I understand the desire to want to have that inside access, please be careful. I don't want to see you guys go the way of the OneRing.net.
Yeah.
Because you're cool nerds and you know your stuff. You really do. And I respect the level of which you know Tolkien's lore. At the end of the day, are you going to defend Tolkien or are you going to defend Amazon? If this does end up being the absolute train wreck that a lot of us feel that it will be, are you going to come out and say, we're really sorry we defended this? Or are you going to stand up and say, no, it's okay?
When is it okay for the source material to exist and just exist without the lens of intersectional feminism, identity politics, neo-Marxism, whatever ology is out there right now? If you guys there at the Fellowship of the Fans haven't seen what has happened to virtually every intellectual property from Star Wars to Doctor Who to Star Trek, I mean, we don't need to say the whole list. You know what we're talking about. This was the last thing that they hadn't destroyed. And I agree with Elijah. When the reaction comes from the fans that Amazon is going to somehow be standing with you, or they're just going to leave you left holding the bag, just like the OneRing.net. Elijah, shout out your channel before you go and we'll close.
Yes, I am a Troubled Green. Find me on all social media at a Troubled Green, and I'm doing a lot of fun things, so I hope to see you guys around. All right, thanks so much for having me on.
As ever, this is Salty Texas C. I am Corey DB. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you've seen and heard, please hit that thumbs up button. If you haven't subscribed, I'd love to have you on board. That way you know, and we have things like live streams, which we are going to be doing every Tuesday evening. Take care. I hope you're having a great 2022.